and start getting some of these higher, better recruits.
Right.
So, for example, what I was thinking about was that the XFL, with what they're doing, may allow for that to happen at some point. If you do the XFL, you got players doing this, and then you got Hunter. You've got this name, image, likeness that we're working on, trying to find. And everybody thinks, I'll give you quick economics lessons, folks. Everyone thinks that if you're going to pay the players, only the big time teams will get the good players. That is not how it's going to work because there's so many teams. So and back that up for a second, Hunter, are the same top 10 to 15 teams are in the top 10 to 15 every year, no matter what, anyway?
Right.
Are things equal?
Like
anyway?
me and you could sit here right now and probably list.
Close your eyes. We can
pick the top 15 for next season,
and you would, without ever knowing who played for who.
And this would be early too.
I could do it.
I could pick the AP preseason poll right now for the top 15.
Well, didn't I do that last year before the season started? And I missed 3 of the 15.
You missed like 3. That was it. 3 out of. So
and I had to know a single player on any team.
12 out of 15, and you just guessed. You hadn't watched it. You don't watch college football. So what would people be upset and mean by the rich will only get richer? It already happens anyway. If you're a North Carolina Tar Heel fan or NC State fan, you're not winning the championship. You're not going to be considered in the top 15. Somebody asks you later.
You have to go undefeated and get into it.
I could tell you right now, probably the top 5 for next year. Off the top of my head, AP. Number 1's either going to be Clemson or 2 Alabama. Those 2 are already.
Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State.
Yep. Georgia's going to be either 4 or 5. 4 and then 5. 5 really can be a toss-up between anybody.
Every year. It's every year, those 4. So
5 could be Oklahoma.
So now let's get
Oklahoma, one of the Big 12 teams. Oklahoma.
Now let's give an example, Hunter. So let's say LSU pays.
There's another one I could have named.
Let's say LSU pays Joe Burrow $10 million a year.
Yeah.
Well, the next recruit in the next draft class wouldn't necessarily be able to sign with Alabama because are they going to give a backup quarterback in college $10 million a year to be a backup and learn?
No.
So then you would stop some of these
dynasties
changes and transfers as far as, all right, the kid that's going to Luke May's little brother.
Yeah, he just decommitted from Alabama to North Carolina.
All right, the kid.
No. Was it from Alabama? Yeah, he decommitted from Alabama. Or was it Florida State?
Who's there now?
Sam Howell is there now.
He was going to
Florida State. He decommitted and decided to go to North Carolina.
Luke May's little brother was going somewhere else.
I think it was Alabama.
And it was, you're right.
Yeah.
And changed to come to North Carolina. Now, if we back up that train and North Carolina's already paying Chaz $5 million a year to play quarterback, neither one of those come to North Carolina.
Because they wouldn't be a starter.
Why would May come to North Carolina to be a backup?
Yeah.
At or $50,000 a year you would get for being a backup, as opposed to Alabama getting $5 million a year. So that's my point. Is that, and that was reversed. Is what I'm saying is that if there's a salary, even if they put a salary cap, whether they put one or not, Harvard's endowment, Hunter.
Oh yeah,
is $1 billion. Okay, it's with a B. So if you put that comparatively, if there is no salary cap, you can pay your players whatever you want.
Well, here's the thing.
So the smaller, more private schools who make more money,
Duke,
can easily sit there and say Duke could pay they could just pay Joe Burrow $30 million and pay everybody else $50,000.
Yeah,
see what I mean?
See, it's the thing. It's going to
spread out.
It would make smaller schools be more competitive in the recruiting
Alabama
market.
Couldn't pay every single star. They can get every star now on defense. They can get 10 stars that are going to NFL. But if they were having to pay them, it would only be 5.
It would be the same thing as the NFL-wise. You have to spread it out and put the money in smart spots. It would essentially be like this. I'm just going to bring up a very small school. Let's just say College of Charleston is looking at the number 1 quarterback recruit out of South Carolina, and so is Clemson. But Clemson's already landed last year's number 1 quarterback in the nation. And they're paying him, we'll go ahead and continue, let's just say $10 million.
5.
It doesn't have to be crazy.
That's better than nothing.
Say they're paying him $10 million. Well, College of Charleston wants this number one quarterback in South Carolina, and so does Clemson. But it's going to be the same thing that a lot of guys look at as, well, I'm not going to be able to start for a year or two anyways. Mm-hmm. Well, if you go to Clemson and they say, well, where we're at right now with our salary, we're only going to be able to give you about $50,000 to $75,000 in this first season, and you're still going to be a backup. Whereas at College of Charleston, they can say, look, we've got $5 million open right now, and we need a starting caliber quarterback.
Right.
And you can come in and start right now.
So teams maybe, like Clemson will have to choose, do they want to pay five-star defenders?
And maybe let's not go as small as College of Charleston, but even a Wake Forest where they're not even the premier team in the ACC, but they can still play for a national championship.
Real quick on Clemson, for example, they would have to choose, Hunter, to pay 4 or 5
world-class
4 or 5-star defenders or Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Because, and which one would you rather have, though, for Clemson? You'd rather have the defense because you can bring in one of these other quarterbacks. So, to me, I really think at some point by paying the players that if you open it up, I would almost not like to see a salary cap, but I know they will because that actually makes it for the big boys to be able to kind of play around with it. But that was my point, is that College of Charleston ain't getting the best defenders, the best, but they can pool all their money and pay for the best quarterback or the best wide receiver or best one player at a position. Right. And that's what I mean by these stars will be going here, and wherever else. And I'd like to see it.
I don't think it hurts. I don't know if I would be in the millions mark, but even a couple $100,000 wouldn't be bad.
I think they would.
Be in the millions?
I think they would.
You think it would just become a bidding war and it would get to the millions?
Well, the Big Ten this year, I think for bowls, every school got $40 million on the TV.
Jesus Christ.
On the TV deal.
Yeah, but see,
if you have, I think Alabama has 600 athletes. If you do 40 million divided by 600, you can easily figure out how much each one's worth just on the TV money. That's before you sell a single ticket, a single hot dog, a single shirt, a single anything from the bookstore.
So you probably could get into the couple millions for your elite athletes. But
that's my point, is that Harvard could just go, we're going to pay 21 people the minimum. Yeah. But that quarterback we're paying Trevor Lawrence $25 million this year.
They could.
That's why I keep saying about Vince Young. And that's what he should do with these guys. Is throw it out. And Vince McMahon. They've mentioned it in the past. That might be the strategy in 2 or 3 years once they've got established, is that throw money at some older quarterbacks. That's what
Oliver Luck came out and said, the commissioner of the XFL. Yep. He said, look, we are not even there's nothing in place saying we can't just take you out of high school.
Yeah.
There's nothing in place saying we can't take you out of high school. So that wouldn't surprise me. Just when it comes down to the money aspect of it, depending on how much money they allocate to each school, if it is a salary cap thing, because you can't just pay the big sports then. You have to pay all athletes. So if they do salary cap by school and not just by program at the school, then I would think, okay, maybe they can't afford to be paying the 15 to 20 million per player, but they could still afford to be able to give the top tier players at least close to a 2 or 3 million.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't think it would be double-digit millions, because when you get into that, that's what you would have to do is, are you going to salary cap the school, or are you going to salary cap what the program makes? Because if that's the case, then it would be more for the larger or the larger schools. That would heavily favor that if it's by program, because Alabama's football program is going to bring in a whole lot more money than College of Charleston's program, or not even just College of Charleston, Wake Forest's football program. You know what I'm saying? So you would have to almost just do it based off of what the whole athletic department in general from the school. You couldn't just do it by football, basketball. You have a salary cap. You have a salary cap. You have a salary cap. It would have to be the school overall, because that's where the most money would be able. That's where you could at least say, okay, each Division I or even each Division I and Division II school in America, you're going to have this much money put off to the side, and it is going to be for athletes.
Let me tell you how much.
And from there, you have to just figure it out and divvy it up.
Let me tell you how much money. Hunter, you're just talking about this, the little guys and the big guys. You mentioned Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How many national championships and success, how much more success has Alabama had than Wake Forest on the field, on sports in general?
Just in sports in general, a lot.
Okay.
A lot, because the University of Alabama is strong in softball. They've got their SEC got a good baseball program, and football, of course.
Alabama
is king.
endowment is $885 million. So that's how much money they got sitting there in their bank. You want to know how much Wake Forest was? Did you see that when I clicked on it?
I thought I did, but I didn't know who it was.
Wake Forest is almost double the money
of Alabama
that Alabama has. $1.37 billion with a B dollars, which means Wake Forest can buy all of Alabama's players if they want.
They could buy Alabama.
Right. They could.
That could be.
They could buy
Wake
the whole.
Forest.
They could buy the whole.
That
the whole
could,
university.
They literally could buy the university and say, "You are now Wake Forest of Alabama."
They could buy the whole university, Hunter, and still have $600 million left over.
Money's stupid, isn't it?
When
how much is available?
Think about
stupid.
and just think about how much money Alabama has gotten over the years through the football stuff, and it's still pay. And this is what I mean by the small guys will be able to play, because it pales in comparison to the private university money. $1.37 billion in Wake Forest.
What's Duke's?
Well,
imagine. Like, we're just sticking obviously with schools here in North Carolina, but is it even for public record?
It might not be. Wake Forest, they put it out. Oh, I probably need to put Duke University. That will show me Duke power.
Yeah, I probably need to.
Oh my God! Holy crap!
They could buy multiple universities.
Folks, I'm gonna pull that up on the screen. Folks ain't gonna believe me. Just look. $8.6 billion Duke has. And you wonder how they got Zion Williamson to not come to go to Clemson or South Carolina, Hunter. $8.6 billion. And you want to know how much that is? Alabama only has $800 million. Y'all see that 0.6 on Duke? That's how much Alabama has. Duke has no, it's 9 into 87.
It's a lot.
9 point something. 9.5 times more money than Alabama does, and they haven't sold a.
It's ridiculous.
They've sold what 1/10 of the football tickets that Alabama has.
And but they've got the 5 national championships in basketball.
Right. Now, what if they split that money up between 12 people in basketball?
They'd be the highest paid players ever.
You could pay? Jeez. Let's look that up real quick. Duke student athletes.
We're intrigued now.
Well, Hunter, at $8 billion, they have 650 student athletes a year. Why are kids paying tuition at Duke with an $8.6 billion? They ought to give free. Honestly, Duke, with that much money in the bank, should give North Carolina students free tuition, or at least
in-state kids?
tuition.
Yeah, absolutely,
like a college, like a regular
in-state.
university.
Yeah,
school.
absolutely. Well, what are you hurting?
$8.6 billion.
Dude, and here's the thing. I think people also forget. It's unless you actively go out there and do it, it's tough to spend multiple millions of dollars and just run out. Like, unless you actively go out here and say, well, I'm going to spend this million on this million on this. If you just live your normal life, it's tough. We're talking about $8.6 billion. $8.6 billion, and the government just put out $2 trillion.
All right, Hunter, you ready for this one?
Go ahead.
Duke.
Yes.
With that money.
Uh-huh.
Now, remember, they're going to keep selling tickets, right? And T-shirts and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, still bringing in revenue.
So if Duke just said, you know what? For the next 13 years, we can pay every student athlete, not basketball player, not football player. For the next 13 years, Duke can pay every single student athlete at Duke University. Ready for this, Hunter? $1 million a year. For 13 years, Duke can pay every student athlete. That's the volleyball player, the softball player, every single one. $1 million a year for 13 years. So that means if you're a student athlete and you go 4 years, Hunter, how much money you make?
$4 million.
And you get that shiny, that piece of paper they say it's worth
A
so
diploma.
much. It ain't worth $4 million.
No, it's not.
So that's how much.
Technically.
If Duke just said right now, we're going to use all the money we have to pay all the athletes for the next 13 years.
What's Duke's annual tuition a year?
You'll try to figure out how many students could go to free for that?
No. I'm not just doing that. What you're saying, basically. So their annual tuition each year.
I'm just saying basically is they could pay every student athlete $1 million.
That's $55,000 a year to go to Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at over $200,000 that you spent for that piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Those athletes, that's nothing if you got $4 million. That's nothing.
You could have $4 million or a $250,000 piece of paper.
Or $250,000 in debt for that piece of paper.
For that piece of paper.
For that piece of paper. $1 million to go to play sports there.
No, I just did it.
And I want you to think about that too. And we're sitting here talking about all the athletes as well. You've got these kids going to learn to be doctors at Duke University, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States for medical, and they are coming out in debt up to their ears when the school itself literally could be paying for them to come and learn how to be doctors. And what the school could do as well is whittle it out if they're not quite there, if they don't quite make the cut. That's fine. You don't have to keep spending all the money on the people just because they think they want to come and be doctors. If they don't show the skill, that's fine. But there are these kids that are going, what is medical school? Probably another 4 or 5 years on top of that $250,000 in debt.
You ready for this one?
Go ahead.
They could pay. I didn't need to divide that by 4.
We've turned into an economics class now.
I know. All of a sudden,
we've turned into money. That just shows you we need sports people.
With that money in the bank, they could decide. Are you ready for this?
Uh-huh.
That we could pay full
tuition.
For 4 years, not just one per year.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
So a full student's tuition for 4 years at Duke.
38,000 students.
What's their student count right now?
That's what I was about. 15,000. Two years of full rides to the university. Not 2 years. That's
two student class. That's 8 years. Not counting kids that stay past the 4 years.
That's paying for all the doctors for the next 10 years. Basically.
Essentially.
They could. And not one of them would have to spend a dime on school.
Duke's got too much money. Duke's got too much money.
$8.6 billion.
Billion. What's Appalachian State's
endowment? We're worried about the big boys, Hunter.
Oh, yeah, like the Alabamas and the Georgias and the... I don't even want to know North Carolina.
What I say that
now,
was,
see, Duke is a big boy in basketball. That's the blue blood of basketball.
If you start being able to pay them, Hunter, guess what happens?
Everybody else comes...
Now, all of a sudden, Duke is a player in football.
Yes, I agree.
Because they can pay their players
Duke
9 times more.
No. Duke becomes a player in all sports.
Right, because they can pay their players way more than
arguably,
Alabama.
unless there is a school with a larger endowment of
it was 10 times
of 8.6 billion. Mm-hmm. If there's one larger, then Duke technically should have all the best players in every sport. In every sport. And I'm not a Duke fan. But
so basically, what we're saying is that who's the best player in Alabama? Let's say Derrick Henry went there. Okay, Derrick Henry's offered $1 million from Alabama. Duke could offer him 10.
He could offer him 10 million and get more players.
Duke can offer him 10. That's how much money is in some of these schools,
especially private schools. Let's not forget this is a private school.
Oh yeah,
this is a private school. Wake Forest had a lot of money. Duke has got stupid money.
Oh, this is going to be even stupider. You ready? I know what the answer to this one is.
Who is this? It's Harvard. I see that number, and I really don't like it. I really don't like it.
Harvard, $40 billion. So Duke has 10 times more money than Alabama has.
Mm-hmm.
Harvard's got 5 times the amount of money that Duke has. Hunter, 40 billion. You tell me where Joe Burrows will be going to college.
Harvard.
Tell me where
he's gonna be the smartest damn quarterback ever.
Tell me where Zion Williamson would be going to college
Harvard.
if we were paying players.
Harvard.
I'm just trying to tell y'all, folks. You talk. You can't. It ain't the big boys. You think it is. These public universities, schools ain't making.
But you
nothing.
have to do that for that to work. You literally have to go the route that I said you have to go. Though you have to have a salary cap on the school and not based off of what each sports department does, because
I say no salary cap, no nothing.
Okay, fine,
Pay whatever you
Look,
want.
it doesn't matter, but at the same time, for that to come into play, it would literally have to be because the school as a whole can just pay them whatever. Not it's what the football department brings in, what the basketball department brings in. It would be just from Duke University as a whole, from Harvard University as a whole. I mean, the money we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is ridiculous. I'm looking at this right now for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, $11.3 billion endowment. The money that's available out here is ridiculous. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, some of these athletes need to make millions upon millions upon millions while in college. I think we're simply saying that the notion that these athletes cannot get paid because these schools don't have the money is a joke. It's 100% a joke because the money's there. We can see it. Basically because as a student, it's just public records that we're pulling up, but not a lot of people know to go and look there. Endowment money. $40 million for Harvard. So there's a bunch of money out there, man. Sports in general, especially at the college level, I feel for these athletes. I feel like they're really just taken advantage of because a lot of them, in all seriousness, they're there for one reason and one reason only. You might have some of them that are there genuinely. This is their opportunity to get an education and better their life after, their sports are done, when it's all said and done after the 4 years. But a lot of them are there, and especially at the college basketball level, that has the one and done. You can go for 1 year and be done. A lot of them are only there for 6 months. They're taking up a scholarship spot. Okay, they're literally taking another kid's scholarship who would kill to be there for a whole year for 6 months, and then they're going off to the NBA draft. Okay, well, if you just paid these players instead of giving them scholarships, just give them the money, then you could afford to be able to just give your scholarships everywhere else. The point is, essentially, the money's there, and when the NCAA says that they couldn't afford it, that's a joke.
Liars.
That's a joke. It just comes down to how much are you going to be willing to pay these college athletes? Are you wanting to pay them like professionals?
All right, Hunter, let's switch over to the NFL. Let's do this for fun real quick.